Jason was the kind of bully everyone knew, the one who ruled the halls of Riverside High with an iron fist disguised as a sneer. Towering and confident, his presence alone silenced whispers and sent shivers down spines. For years, Jason had gotten away with intimidating those smaller, weaker, or simply unwilling to fight back. His reputation was cemented by fear and control, an unchallenged king in a kingdom of silence. But on this particular afternoon, Jason was about to discover a truth he never saw coming, that strength isn't always in size or brutality, and sometimes the quietest voices hide the fiercest storms. Maya sat quietly at the back of the classroom, a dark silhouette against the waning light that filtered through dusty windows. Unlike others, she kept to herself, focused and distant, with eyes that seemed to carry worlds of unspoken stories. Her skin was deep brown, her frame small, but those who glanced at her felt an unshakable sense of calm radiating from within. What they didn't know was that beneath that calm simmered a power forged from years of discipline, resilience, and battles no one could see. Jason's footsteps echoed loudly as he strode toward her, a predatory grin twisting his lips. Without warning, his large hand slammed onto Maya's shoulder, a deliberate act meant to intimidate, to force her to shrink under his dominance. The classroom fell silent, every eye fixed on the unfolding scene, the air thick with anticipation and a hint of dread. This was his territory, and anyone who dared to challenge him would quickly learn their place. But Maya's reaction shattered every expectation. Where others might have flinched, bowed their heads, or murmured apologies, Maya's gaze snapped up, fierce and unyielding. Her eyes locked onto Jason's with a burning intensity that held the room captive. The faintest flicker of a smile, calm, confident, unafraid, played at the corners of her mouth. In that moment, the fragile balance of power shifted. Jason blinked, confusion flashing across his face, quickly replaced by anger. Who was this girl who refused to cower? His hand tightened on her shoulder, but Maya didn't falter. Instead, she inhaled deeply, the subtle rise and fall of her chest betraying a steady, unbreakable composure. The next 10 seconds would change everything. There was a hush, the kind of silence that feels almost sacred, as if time itself held its breath. Jason's bravado began to crack just slightly as he stared into those eyes that did not reflect fear, but a storm of resolve. The rest of the class watched in awe, caught between disbelief and a flicker of hope. Maya's mind raced back through years of secret training, each lesson etched into muscle memory. Martial arts wasn't just about fighting, it was about control, balance, and respect for oneself and others. She wasn't here to pick a fight. She was here to protect her dignity, and she was ready. Jason took a step back, sensing the unexpected shift. He tried to regain control, but his usual tactics faltered against the quiet strength emanating from Maya. The bully who thrived on submission suddenly found himself confronted with a force he had never encountered before, a calm defiance that spoke louder than any scream. Every heartbeat quickened, every breath drawn was heavier as the classroom transformed from a place of fear to an arena where courage was about to be revealed. In that pivotal moment, Maya made a decision. Not out of anger, but out of a deep, unwavering sense of self-worth. She would not let Jason's hand or his intimidation define her. Instead, she prepared to show that true power isn't taken by force. It's earned by standing tall when everyone expects you to fall. And so in those 10 seconds after the touch, Maya's entire being prepared for what was to come. Not as a victim, but as a force of nature waiting to be unleashed. Jason's smug smile faltered as he realized the game had changed. For the first time in his reign as the school's terror, he felt something unfamiliar: doubt. And as Maya's eyes held his steady and unyielding, he understood that what was about to happen next would shake not only him, but everyone watching. Maya's calm demeanor was far from weakness. Beneath her quiet exterior lay years of resilience and discipline that had sculpted her into someone far stronger than anyone at Riverside High could imagine. She had learned early on that life wasn't kind to those who looked different or who didn't raise their voices. Her strength wasn't just physical, it was forged from countless moments where she chose to stand tall rather than fall. Since childhood, Maya had trained in martial arts, a passion kept secret from most of her classmates. Her family believed it would teach her respect and self-control, but for Maya it became a lifeline, a way to channel frustration and pain into something powerful and constructive. Every punch she threw, every stance she held was a reminder that she wasn't defined by fear or the judgments of others. In the dim light of the classroom, Maya's breathing was steady. Her mind was clear-focused, like a well-tuned instrument, waiting for the right moment to strike. She wasn't looking for a fight, she simply refused to be a victim. The years of practice had taught her more than just moves and techniques. They had taught her presence, the kind of presence that could fill a room, that could turn heads and quiet even the loudest bullies. Maya's eyes reflected this power, now unwavering and sharp. Jason, who had been so used to having his way, found himself unsettled. His confidence wavered as he saw the fire burning behind Maya's calm gaze. The smile that had once held arrogance now flickered with uncertainty. The hand still resting on her shoulder tightened unconsciously, but Maya's expression did not change. Around them, the classroom seemed to pulse with electricity. Other students held their breath, sensing that this moment was breaking the ordinary flow of their school day. Maya wasn't just standing her ground, she was preparing to reclaim it. Maya's thoughts briefly flashed to the countless hours she had spent in the dojo. The sweat, the discipline, the pain, and the triumphs all converged into this moment. She could feel the strength coursing through her limbs, the sharp focus in her senses. She knew the moves instinctively, and more importantly, she knew when to use them. But this wasn't about fighting Jason for the sake of violence. It was about sending a message, a declaration that she would no longer tolerate being pushed around, dismissed, or belittled. It was a moment to stand not just for herself, but for anyone who had ever felt powerless. Jason's eyes darted around the room, noticing for the first time the subtle shift in the air. The other students who had once looked away or cowered in silence now watched Maya with something new: respect, awe, and perhaps even a flicker of hope. For Maya, the stakes were higher than just this one confrontation. This was a turning point. She wasn't just defending her space, she was breaking a cycle that had kept so many quiet for too long. The strength she wielded wasn't merely physical, it was the power of self-belief, resilience, and courage. As Jason prepared to act, his usual aggression met with an unexpected calm. Maya didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. Instead, she braced herself, ready to move with precision and control. The tension was palpable. Every heartbeat echoed loudly in Maya's ears. She felt the world narrow down to the space between her and Jason, a space charged with possibility and change. When Jason lunged, it was with the confidence of someone used to winning. But Maya met him with the skill and determination honed through years of training. She deflected his attack with grace and retaliated with a swift, precise motion that caught him off guard. The classroom erupted in gasps. Jason stumbled, his shock evident as he realized Maya wasn't the easy target he had assumed. The quiet girl was a force, a revelation that left everyone, including him, breathless. Maya stood tall, the embodiment of strength in a moment where many expected weakness. She had transformed the narrative in those few seconds, reminding everyone that true power lies not in dominance, but in standing firm when the world expects you to fall. The classroom was filled with a tense silence, so thick it almost felt tangible, as if the very air had frozen in place. Every pair of eyes was fixed on the two figures standing at the center of the room. Maya, calm and resolute, and Jason, the school's notorious bully, whose once unshakable confidence now wavered for the very first time. The energy in the room crackled with disbelief, anticipation, and an emerging sense of hope. For all who watched, it was clear that this moment would rewrite the social dynamics of Riverside High forever. Jason had long been the undisputed ruler of the school corridors. Towering and commanding, his sneer alone could silence a noisy classroom. For years, his reign was built on fear and intimidation. He prided himself on his ability to crush anyone who dared cross his path. The smaller, the quieter, the weaker, all submitted to his will. To Jason, power meant control, and control was absolute. The rules were simple: you either bowed or broke. But now, standing before him was Maya, the quiet girl who had faded into the background for so long, barely noticed by most. To her classmates, she was nearly invisible, a shadow lingering at the back of the room, someone too small to make a difference. Yet beneath that serene exterior burned a fierce fire forged through years of quiet resilience and relentless determination. Maya was a force Jason had never anticipated, one that would change everything. Jason's hand had rested on Maya's shoulder just moments ago, a gesture meant to assert dominance and evoke submission. But that touch now seemed fragile, a thread stretched taut between two vastly different worlds. The confident smirk that always played across Jason's face vanished, replaced by a flicker of doubt and unease, barely concealed beneath the surface. That single act had ignited a defiance so fierce it rippled through the entire room, shattering the oppressive silence and turning it into an electric charge. Maya's breath remained steady and measured. Her posture was unshakable, rooted, like an ancient mountain standing firm against the storm. Years of martial arts training had strengthened not only her body, but also her mind and spirit. She was poised and ready, embodying a calm before the inevitable storm. Jason's instincts screamed at him to act quickly. This was no ordinary confrontation, and the creeping fear invading his mind was unwelcome and foreign. With a sudden burst of energy, he lunged forward, throwing a fast jab aimed to overpower and intimidate a strike driven by adrenaline and a lifetime of unchecked aggression. But Maya was faster. With a fluid motion, she sidestepped effortlessly, her movements as graceful as flowing water. She caught Jason's wrist firmly, but with controlled strength, a grip that caught Jason completely off guard. The gasps from her classmates echoed through the room as their eyes widened in disbelief. The quiet girl they had overlooked for so long had suddenly become the center of attention, a force no one had dared to imagine. Shock flooded Jason's eyes. The dominance he had wielded so effortlessly slipped through his fingers as Maya skillfully redirected his momentum. In a swift practiced maneuver, she twisted his arm and shifted his weight, sending him crashing onto the cold linoleum floor with a heavy thud. For a moment, the classroom froze in stunned silence. Then a ripple of astonished murmurs spread through the students. Jason, once an invincible bully, lay vulnerable and humbled, his mind racing to grasp the enormity of what had just happened. His pride, long armored by arrogance, cracked beneath the crushing weight of defeat. Maya stood over him, steady and unshaken. Her expression radiated calm authority. Her eyes pierced the stunned quiet, conveying no gloating or malice, only the serene dignity of someone who had reclaimed her power. Her gaze met Jason's, silently proclaiming, "I will not be your victim." Students shifted uneasily in their seats. Some had eyes brimming with admiration, while others whispered excitedly about the bravery they had just witnessed. For many it was a revelation. Strength was not defined by volume or size, but by the courage to stand firm when fear whispers to run. Jason struggled to his feet, his pride battered, but a flicker of respect kindling within. He avoided Maya's steady gaze, grappling with the humbling lesson in front of him. He could no longer deny the truth, the genuine power Maya possessed. With surprising grace, Maya extended her hand to help him up, a gesture of empathy and strength, not dominance. It was a moment that spoke volumes about her character and the true essence of power tempered by compassion. Their teacher, who had silently observed the entire ordeal, stepped forward. Her voice was calm but resolute as she addressed the class, delivering a powerful message about respect, kindness, and courage. She emphasized that bullying would no longer be tolerated and that standing up for oneself and others was the first step toward real change. From that day forward, Riverside High was transformed. The oppressive silence that had once cloaked the halls gave way to stories of bravery, solidarity, and change. Maya's act of courage became a beacon, inspiring countless others to find their voices and stand united against injustice. The culture of fear that had dominated for years began to crumble. Jason, once blinded by arrogance and ignorance, embarked on a journey of self-awareness. He learned that true strength lies not in domination or cruelty, but in respect for oneself and for others. For Maya, the moment reaffirmed a profound truth: strength is not measured by size or loudness, but by the courage to stand tall and the resilience to face adversity head-on. It took only 10 seconds to transform fear into bravery, silence into a voice, and a quiet girl into a symbol of empowerment. Those 10 seconds rippled far beyond the classroom walls, touching hearts and changing lives in ways no one could have imagined. The room remained still for a moment longer after Jason's fall, the silence broken only by the shallow breaths and pounding hearts of those witnessing the impossible. Maya's calm stance contrasted sharply with the chaos that had just unfolded, her eyes steady as they scanned the room, now fully aware of the impact of what she had done. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone, and it was clear that nothing would ever be the same. In the minutes that followed, whispers began to ripple through the classroom. Some students exchanged awed glances, others murmured words of encouragement. A newfound respect blossomed for Maya, the girl who had refused to be pushed down, who had taken a stand when so many remained silent. Her courage was a beacon that cut through years of fear and silence, igniting something powerful in the hearts of her peers Jason, still recovering from his fall, sat silently on the floor, the shock evident in his wide eyes. His pride had been bruised, but it was more than that. He was confronting a reality he had never faced before. For so long, he had relied on fear and force, but now he had met someone who refused to be broken. The realization unsettled him deeply, planting seeds of doubt that would grow over time. The teacher, sensing the gravity of the situation, stepped forward to address the class. Her voice was calm but firm, weaving a message of respect, empathy, and strength. She spoke about the importance of standing up against injustice and the courage it took to face fear head-on. Her words were a call to action, urging the students to support one another and reject the culture of bullying that had long plagued the school. As the day wore on, the atmosphere at Riverside High began to shift. Conversations changed. Students who had once been bystanders now found their voices. The halls echoed not with fear, but with stories of bravery and solidarity. Maya's actions had sparked a movement, reminding everyone that courage was contagious. For Maya herself, the experience was transformative. She realized that her strength went far beyond physical skill. It was rooted in her resilience, her belief in herself, and her refusal to be defined by others. The quiet girl had become a symbol of empowerment, not just for her peers, but for anyone who had ever felt powerless. Jason's journey was just beginning. The defeat he suffered that day forced him to reevaluate who he was and what strength truly meant. Over time, he learned that respect and empathy were far more powerful than intimidation and fear. His transformation was a testament to the possibility of change, even in those who seemed the most entrenched in darkness. Together, Maya and Jason's story became a catalyst for change in their school community. It was a reminder that standing up even in the face of overwhelming odds could shift the balance of power. It proved that 10 seconds, a brief moment in time, could change lives forever. The legacy of that day lived on, inspiring countless others to find their own courage, stand tall, and speak out against injustice. It was a story of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The classroom confrontation between Maya and Jason was just the beginning, a spark that quickly ignited a wave of transformation throughout Riverside High. The impact of Maya's courage spread rapidly, touching every corner of the school and inspiring a profound shift in the culture that had long been suffocated by fear and silence. In the days following the incident, Maya's bravery became the topic of conversation in every hallway, lunchroom, and classroom. Students who had once hidden behind walls of shame and intimidation found themselves emboldened. Maya was no longer the quiet girl at the back of the room. She was a beacon of hope and strength, someone who proved that standing up could change everything. At first, these changes were subtle but significant. Groups of students began to form circles of support, rallying around peers who had suffered in silence. Words of kindness replaced whispers of exclusion. The cafeteria, once a place rife with social hierarchies and cliques, buzzed with new energy as students engaged in conversations about empathy and respect. "Did you see what Maya did?" became a common refrain, a statement that united students across backgrounds. Teachers and staff quickly noticed the difference. Classrooms became spaces where empathy was discussed openly, where respect was modeled and expected. Some teachers incorporated lessons on emotional intelligence and conflict resolution, encouraging students to share their experiences and support one another. The administration took notice as well, initiating new policies and programs to combat bullying more effectively. Anti-bullying campaigns, peer mentoring groups, and anonymous reporting systems were introduced to create a safer environment for all. The transformation extended beyond policies; it touched the hearts of the students. Maya's act of courage inspired many to reconsider their own roles in the school's social dynamics. Bystanders began to speak out, refusing to be silent witnesses. Those who had once used their power to intimidate found themselves challenged by a growing culture of accountability. Jason's journey through this upheaval was particularly profound. The shock of being defeated by Maya shattered his self-image. For the first time, he was forced to confront emotions he had long suppressed: shame, vulnerability, and regret. The admiration Maya received from her peers only heightened his feelings of isolation and sparked a deep desire to change. Initially defensive, Jason resisted the idea of transformation. His pride clung stubbornly to old habits, making the process difficult. However, as the school's culture shifted around him with kindness and respect rising in place of fear, He found himself reflecting on the person he wanted to become. Over time, these reflections blossomed into genuine efforts to make amends and rebuild relationships. Maya's role evolved alongside the growing movement. She stepped into leadership, working closely with teachers and administrators to expand programs that promoted inclusion and respect. She became a voice for those still finding their strength, encouraging unity and collective action against bullying. Her humility and determination made her a beloved figure, respected not only for her courage, but also for her commitment to lasting change. The school community blossomed into a vibrant tapestry of support and diversity. New clubs emerged dedicated to fostering understanding across cultural, social, and personal differences. Workshops on emotional resilience and peer support became regular fixtures, empowering students with tools to navigate challenges constructively. Riverside High was no longer just a place of learning, it had become a sanctuary where students could thrive safely. The ripple effects reached beyond the school. Parents, local organizations, and neighboring districts took notice of Riverside's transformation. Maya's story was shared widely, inspiring broader conversations on bullying prevention and youth empowerment. Social media buzzed with stories of courage and change, sparking initiatives in communities far beyond the original classroom. Throughout the journey, Maya remained grounded. She understood that true change required persistence, patience, and collective effort. Yet the progress she witnessed fueled her determination to continue advocating for kindness and justice. She believed deeply that every voice mattered, and that every courageous act, no matter how small, could contribute to a better world. Jason's transformation was equally significant. Once blinded by arrogance, he committed himself to fostering a culture of respect and empathy. He worked hard to repair the harm he had caused, becoming an advocate for kindness himself. His journey embodied the profound truth that no one is beyond change, and that growth is always possible. Together, Maya and Jason's intertwined stories wove a new narrative for Riverside High, one defined by bravery, respect, and compassion. Their journey proved that even the smallest moments of courage could ignite movements, rewrite histories, and reshape lives forever. And so the 10 seconds it took for Maya to stand up and say enough continued to echo through the halls and hearts of Riverside High. It was a powerful reminder that change begins with a single step, that every individual holds the power to create ripples capable of transforming the world around them. As the initial wave of change swept through Riverside High, the community began to experience the real test of its newfound courage and unity. Maya's bold stand had sparked something extraordinary, but transforming a culture built over years would require more than a single moment of bravery. It would demand persistence, resilience, and the willingness to confront deeper, more complex challenges. In the weeks after Maya's confrontation with Jason, the school buzzed with a fresh energy. Students walked with more confidence, voices rose louder against injustice, and acts of kindness became more frequent. But with this change came new tests, moments that challenged the strength of the movement and the individuals who had embraced it. For Maya, the spotlight brought both admiration and pressure. As a leader, she found herself navigating complex dynamics, balancing her personal growth with the expectations of her peers and teachers. She spent hours organizing meetings, speaking at assemblies, and working with school counselors to ensure the support systems were accessible and effective. Her resolve was unwavering, but the weight of responsibility sometimes felt heavy. Jason faced his own battles. Though he had taken steps toward redemption, old habits and external pressures pulled him back at times. Some former allies resisted his change, viewing his new attitude as weakness or betrayal. Confronting their skepticism required patience and courage. Testing Jason's commitment to becoming a better person, the broader student body also grappled with challenges. Not all students embraced the shift immediately. Some clung to old social hierarchies and prejudices. Instances of bullying still surfaced, albeit less frequently, reminding everyone that change was a gradual process. The community learned that standing up against injustice was not a single victory, but a continuous journey. Teachers played a crucial role during this period. They reinforced lessons on empathy, conflict resolution, and inclusivity while addressing incidents firmly and fairly. School counselors expanded their outreach, creating safe spaces for students to express fears and seek guidance. The administration monitored progress, closely adapting policies and programs to meet the evolving needs of the students. One particularly poignant moment came during a school-wide assembly. Maya shared her story, not just the moment of confrontation, but the ongoing journey of growth and community building. Her words resonated deeply, inspiring many to reflect on their roles in fostering a safe, respectful environment. She emphasized that courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to act despite it. Jason, sitting quietly in the audience, listened intently. He felt a mixture of pride, humility, and determination. The path ahead was long, but the transformation he witnessed gave him hope. He knew he was no longer alone in striving for change. Outside of school, the movement gained momentum. Local organizations partnered with Riverside High to provide workshops, mentorship, and resources. Parents became more involved, attending meetings and advocating for anti-bullying initiatives. The community united around a shared vision of safety, respect, and empowerment for all youth. Amid these changes, Maya and Jason's stories continued to inspire. They became symbols not only of courage, but of the complex realities of change, the setbacks, the growth, and the power of resilience. Their journey illustrated that transformation is a collective effort requiring empathy, patience, and unwavering commitment. The challenges Riverside High faced were far from over, but the foundation laid by Maya's stand was strong. The school had begun to heal, becoming a place where students could thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. The culture of fear was giving way to one of hope and possibility. In the quiet moments between meetings and classes, Maya often reflected on how far the community had come. She understood that the true victory was not just in standing up once, but in sustaining that courage daily. Her belief in the power of collective action remained steadfast, fueled by the stories of students who found their voices and lives changed for the better. Jason's transformation reminded everyone that change is possible even for those who once caused harm. His journey underscored the importance of accountability, forgiveness, and the courage to redefine oneself. Together, Maya and Jason's intertwined journeys continued to shape Riverside High's evolving identity. Their story was a testament to the power of resilience and the enduring impact of a single courageous act. And as the school year progressed, the ripples of change they had set in motion continued to spread, inspiring new acts of bravery and kindness that promised a brighter future for all. As the weeks turned into months, the ripple effect of Maya's courage and Jason's transformation spread throughout Riverside High, gradually reshaping the school's culture. But real change is never easy or linear. The community soon encountered its first real test moments that would reveal whether the new spirit of respect and courage could withstand challenges and setbacks. Maya found herself navigating uncharted territory. Her role as a leader had grown beyond what she ever imagined. She was no longer just a student. She was a voice for many, carrying the hopes and fears of those who still struggled in silence. The weight of this responsibility was sometimes overwhelming. Organizing awareness campaigns, attending meetings, mentoring younger students, these became her daily reality. Yet through it all, her resolve remained unshaken. She understood that change was a marathon, not a sprint. Jason's journey of redemption was equally complex. Although he had publicly changed his ways, old wounds and habits died slowly. Some former friends resented his new outlook, seeing it as weakness or betrayal. Others tested his sincerity with taunts and subtle provocations. Each encounter challenged his commitment to becoming better. But Jason faced these moments with increasing maturity, learning to choose empathy and humility over pride and aggression. The student body as a whole was still learning to navigate this evolving landscape. Not every student was ready or willing to embrace the new culture. Some clung to old divisions and prejudices. A few isolated incidents of bullying reminded everyone that the battle was far from over. Teachers and counselors worked tirelessly to address these issues, providing support and fostering open dialogue. They emphasized that real change requires continuous effort and courage to confront uncomfortable truths. One particularly challenging episode involved a group of students who resisted the movement for inclusion. They spread rumors and attempted to undermine the efforts of Maya and her allies. The school's leadership faced pressure to respond firmly while maintaining a supportive environment for all students. Maya was invited to speak at a special assembly addressing these tensions. Her words were powerful, reminding everyone that progress requires patience, understanding, and a shared commitment to justice. At home, Maya found comfort and strength in her family. They supported her unwaveringly, offering encouragement and a safe space to recharge. Her parents instilled in her the values of perseverance and compassion, reminding her that leadership often means facing adversity with grace. This foundation helped Maya stay grounded amid the growing expectations placed upon her. Meanwhile, Jason's family also played a crucial role in his transformation. They encouraged him to take responsibility for his past and to embrace the path of personal growth. Their support gave him the courage to face difficult conversations and to rebuild relationships strained by years of fear and anger. Outside the school community, leaders recognized the significance of Riverside High's transformation. Partnerships with local organizations grew stronger, bringing additional resources and programs focused on youth empowerment and mental health. Maya and Jason became ambassadors for these initiatives, sharing their experiences and advocating for systemic change. The ongoing challenges tested the community's resilience, but also solidified its commitment to a better future. Riverside High was evolving into more than a school. It was becoming a model of courage, inclusion, and hope. Maya often reflected on how far they had come and how far they still needed to go. She understood that setbacks were part of the journey, but so were victories, big and small. Every conversation, every act of kindness, every moment of standing up mattered. Jason's journey reminded everyone that change is possible, even for those once entrenched in harmful behaviors. His growth embodied the power of accountability, forgiveness, and the human capacity to choose a better path. Together, their intertwined stories continued to inspire a new generation of students at Riverside High. They were living proof that courage and compassion could overcome fear and division, and that true change is forged through persistence, empathy, and the willingness to stand tall even when the world tests you. The transformation at Riverside High was far from over. Though the courageous acts of Maya and the evolving spirit of the student body had begun to reshape the school culture, the path forward was filled with challenges and opportunities alike. Part of true change was learning to build bridges to mend broken connections, foster understanding, and create a community grounded in empathy and shared purpose. As the school year progressed, Maya's role expanded beyond the classroom and assemblies. She began collaborating with diverse groups of students, faculty, and community members to initiate programs that focused not only on anti-bullying, but also on healing and reconciliation. These initiatives sought to bring together students from different backgrounds, encouraging dialogue and mutual respect in ways that transcended simple rules and policies. One such initiative was the Bridge Builders Program, a peer-led group dedicated to conflict resolution, cultural exchange, and leadership development. Maya took a leading role organizing workshops, facilitating discussions, and mentoring younger students. The program emphasized active listening, empathy, and the power of storytelling to heal divisions. Jason, too, became deeply involved. His journey of growth inspired him to use his experience as a cautionary tale and a message of hope. He shared openly about his past mistakes, the pain they caused, and the hard work required to change. His vulnerability resonated with many, breaking down walls of mistrust and fostering new friendships. Together, Maya and Jason symbolized the power of redemption and the strength found in owning one's story. These efforts rippled outward, touching every corner of the school. Classroom debates became more inclusive, extracurricular activities promoted collaboration over competition, and students volunteered for community service projects that fostered a sense of shared responsibility. The culture at Riverside High was evolving into one of belonging, where diversity was celebrated and every voice was valued. Yet building bridges was not without its difficulties. Old wounds sometimes resurfaced. Misunderstandings and conflicts still arose, testing the patience and resilience of everyone involved. Maya found herself navigating moments of doubt and frustration, learning to balance hope with realism. She recognized that transformation is a process requiring persistence, humility, and a willingness to forgive both others and oneself. Jason faced his own internal challenges. While he had made great strides, the fear of relapse lingered. Peer pressure and past associations occasionally tempted him toward old behaviors. But with the support of friends, mentors, and his own growing self-awareness, he continued to choose a path of kindness and accountability. Parents and community leaders grew increasingly engaged, supporting the school's initiatives and advocating for youth empowerment. Collaborative events brought families, educators, and students together, strengthening bonds and creating a network of support beyond the school walls. Riverside High became a hub of positive change, inspiring similar efforts in neighboring schools. Maya's story reached local media, and she was invited to speak at community forums and youth conferences. Her message emphasized the importance of courage, compassion, and collective action. She encouraged others to believe in their ability to make a difference, no matter how small the first step might seem. The journey was far from over, but the progress was undeniable. Riverside High had begun to heal not through superficial fixes, but through genuine connection and commitment. Maya and Jason's intertwined paths continued to inspire a community dedicated to building a future grounded in respect and hope. As the school year drew to a close, Maya reflected on the journey, the challenges faced, the victories won, and the work still ahead. She knew that the foundation laid by a single courageous act had blossomed into a movement capable of lasting change. Jason, standing beside her at the graduation ceremony, felt a profound sense of gratitude and renewal. The boy who had once ruled through fear was now part of a community that thrived on understanding and growth. Together, they looked toward the future, ready to carry the lessons of Riverside High into the wider world, confident in the power of resilience, redemption, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Years passed, and Riverside High continued to grow and change, forever shaped by a moment of courage and the ripple effect that followed. Maya's bold stand against bullying planted seeds of empathy, respect, and resilience that blossomed into a lasting legacy, transforming not only the school, but the lives of everyone who walked its halls. Graduates carried with them the lessons learned, lessons of bravery, kindness, and the power of speaking out into colleges, workplaces, and communities far beyond the school gates. Maya herself took her story beyond Riverside, becoming a passionate advocate for youth empowerment and anti-bullying programs across the country. Through speeches, workshops, and writing, she inspired countless others to find their voices and stand strong against injustice. Jason's journey was equally remarkable. The boy, once defined by fear and intimidation, had grown into a mentor and leader dedicated to helping troubled youth find a better path. He spoke openly about his mistakes, the pain they caused, and the redemptive power of accountability and empathy. Jason's transformation was a living testament to the possibility of change, a beacon of hope for anyone seeking to rewrite their story. At Riverside High, traditions arose to honor the spirit of resilience and community. Annual Courage Days celebrated the bravery of students who stood up against bullying and injustice. Peer mentoring programs flourished, connecting older and younger students in supportive relationships that fostered growth and understanding. Storytelling circles provided safe spaces for sharing experiences, healing wounds, and strengthening bonds. But the true legacy of Riverside High was not found only in programs or policies. It lived in the hearts of its students, staff, and community. It was the spirit of standing tall in the face of fear, of speaking truth to power, and of lifting one another up with compassion. It was a torch passed from one generation to the next, lighting the way toward a kinder, more just world. Maya often reflected on the journey, humbled by the challenges overcome and the victories won. She knew the power of a single courageous act, how 10 seconds of bravery could ignite a movement that changed countless lives. Her hope was that this legacy would endure, inspiring future generations to continue the work of building inclusive, empathetic communities. Jason, now walking the halls years later, as a respected alumnus and mentor, felt a deep sense of peace and purpose. The boy who once ruled through fear was now a man who led with empathy and understanding. His story was shared as an example of growth, redemption, and the enduring power of human kindness. Together, Maya and Jason's intertwined journeys continued to shape Riverside High's identity, a community rooted in courage, respect, and compassion. Their story was a powerful reminder that true strength comes not from dominance, but from the heart, from the courage to face adversity, the humility to learn, and the kindness to uplift others. As Riverside High looked to the future, it did so with confidence and hope. The ripples created by Maya's stand were still spreading, inspiring new acts of bravery, compassion, and leadership. The school had become more than a place of learning. It was a sanctuary where every student could find their voice and the strength to make a difference. And so the legacy of Riverside High lived on, a shining example of how one moment, one choice, and one courageous soul can transform a community and light the way for generations to come. It was a quiet spring morning when Maya returned once again to Riverside High, this time not as a student or even as an activist, but as a guest speaker for the senior graduation class. The school had changed, newer buildings had been added, murals of student leaders now adorned the walls, and the campus thrummed with a vibrant energy. But there was one thing that remained the same: the spirit of courage that had taken root so many years ago. She stood alone for a few minutes in the main hallway, staring at a wall now filled with framed photographs. Among them was a candid image of her younger self, not from the day she stood up to Jason, but from the day after, when she sat surrounded by classmates who had gathered to thank her, support her, and share their own stories. That moment had meant just as much to her, if not more. Behind her, soft footsteps echoed. She turned to see Jason, older now, but still carrying that same thoughtful presence. They exchanged a smile, not one of nostalgia, but one of shared understanding. Their journey had started in conflict, but over time it had grown into something far more powerful: transformation. I still get nervous walking these halls, Jason admitted with a half smile. Maya chuckled. Me too. But I think that's what makes us human. Together they walked into the auditorium where rows of students and faculty awaited. It was a full house, not just students, but families, teachers from the past, and local leaders who had followed Riverside's story over the years. When Maya took the stage, she looked out at the sea of faces, some expectant, others uncertain, all full of potential. She paused for a moment before speaking. You may know me as the girl who stood up to a bully, she began. But that's only part of the story. The truth is, what happened afterward mattered even more. What came next, the listening, the learning, the healing, that's what shaped us. That's what built this community. She shared stories of failure and growth, of moments when change didn't come easily, and how she had to learn to forgive not just Jason, but also herself. She spoke about strength not as dominance, but as empathy. Leadership not as a title, but as a responsibility. When she invited Jason to join her on stage, there was a moment of stillness, and then applause erupted. Jason spoke simply and sincerely. He admitted that he didn't recognize the harm he had caused until it stared him in the face. Maya didn't just teach me how to lose a fight, he said. She taught me how to earn back dignity, and that changed everything. After the assembly, dozens of students lined up to speak with them, some with stories of how they had stood up for themselves or helped others with dreams of becoming the kind of leaders they had just seen. One student, a young girl with braids and wide, intense eyes, held tightly to a notebook. I wrote a poem about what happened to me last year, she said, but I never read it out loud to anyone. Until today. I think I'm ready now. That moment, quiet and unassuming, struck Maya more deeply than all the awards or speeches she had ever given. Because that was the point. Not to be remembered, but to leave something behind that lives on through others. In the years that followed, the movement continued. Maya moved into global advocacy work, shaping education policies and mental health initiatives. Jason became a youth counselor, working in schools with students who reminded him of his younger self, full of pain, but also full of promise. But no matter where they went, their story was never just theirs anymore. It belonged to every student who chose kindness over cruelty, every teacher who chose to listen instead of discipline first, every parent who decided to show up and speak up, and every young person who found their voice because someone else had once dared to use theirs. The legacy of Riverside High wasn't in its brick and mortar, or even in the policies that had changed, though those were important. It was in the culture that had taken root, one where strength was redefined, power was shared, and courage was measured not in decibels, but in compassion. Maya's final lesson to that graduating class wasn't just about what had happened. It was about what still needed to be done. Don't wait for permission to stand up, she said. The world doesn't change because someone is watching. It changes when someone dares to act, even when no one else does. And as she left that day, walking once again through the halls where it all began, Maya didn't feel like she was walking away. She felt like she was handing something off. The torch had been passed. And in the eyes of those students, it was already burning brighter than ever.